Street Fighter Alpha is one of my fave Street Fighter series to ever exist because it what broke the monotony of many iterations of Street Fighter 2 that became a staple in the arcades and at home. Street Fighter Alpha 2 is my favourite game of the Alpha series because it upgraded everything from Warrior's Dream with new additions, which I will be getting into later, and became Monster. Released as an arcade for Capcom's CP2 board in 1996 and following a slew of releases for the Saturn, PlayStation, Super Nintendo and Microsoft PC, all published and developed by Capcom. This is what the peak of 90s 2D fighters are all about, and what no better way than to review its Japanese version 02 for the PlayStation. Is the game any good? Let's find out. In terms of gameplay, things such as 3-level super combo gauge, alpha counters, air blocking and full braking have made a return from the first game, but also with a feature that if the super combo gauge is filled past level 1 or higher, you can activate super combo system by pressing 2 kicks and 1 punch, or 2 punches and 1 kick to activate it, which is kind of similar to the V-ism of 0/Alpha 3, which will be mentioned in the next review, where you can string a lot of combos and special moves for an allotted period of time doing damage. Controls is what you would expect in a Street Fighter game, 6 buttons being punch and kick, each varying with degrees of strength, and honestly, this is fine because there is nothing wrong with these controllers, so I'm kinda glad that these have not been altered or hindered in any way, so thank you Capcom, very cool. For the modes, yeah, it's pretty standard. It has only 3, such as single play, versus and practice, but when playing the single play, you go through a series of 8 fighters in order to complete the game, each with a storyline attached to it. The roster has returning characters from Street Fighter 2 like Ryu, Ken, Chun-Li, Dalsim, Zangief, Sagat and Bison, with additional characters like Birdie, Gen, Charlie, Dan, Akuma and Rose. Also added to the roster are people like Guy, Sodom and Rolento, I think they are called, from a little unknown indie game called Final Fight, which no one has ever heard of. Also making her appearance for the first time is a character that made me want to play Street Fighter even more, Sakura, who is the many other reasons why I started this channel and my Instagram account. Whilst noting that when you select your character, you are presented with some options with the guarding system if you wish to go for manual or auto guarding, but also a selection of speed being normal and turbo. Me personally, I go for manual and turbo every fucking time, because it wouldn't be a Street Fighter game if it was just slow as shit. Looking at you, Street Fighter 2 Champion Edition. Okay, sound and music wise, I'm gonna be honest, I don't know if it's old age picking this up, but I noticed a difference in the sound of the PS1 version compared to the arcade. I mean, it doesn't sound bad, but it sure as hell sounds a lot different akin to this arcade version, which for me doesn't really bode well, but it is compressed, so maybe that is why. But also saying that, we're also going to go to the graphic part, because considering that the PS1 again is not a 2D powerhouse, and I'm sure you motherfuckers are going to probably get sick of me saying that, but it's not a 2D powerhouse like the Saturn, which means there will be some missing frames of animation, but knowing that, it's hardly anything noticeable for me personally. The 2D backgrounds and the models themselves actually look really nice, and just like that, there is one thing I do want to complain about: loading times. Yeah, I think at this point, I think you all know how I feel towards loading times, and I'm pretty sure most of you are sick of when I mention this. Now, is the game any good? Honestly, yes. Okay, I mean, sure, it's not in the same league as the arcade or the Saturn version, but personally, this is Street Fighter in its purest form. While still maintaining the core fundamentals of a competent fighter, this is probably one of the best examples of a 2D fighter done right. I mean, alongside with the caveats that do hinder the game to some degree, but saying that, these are only fucking minor, that don't really harm the overall gameplay. And honestly, if you don't mind the loading time and some hits to both sound and animation, graphically it is still impressive and it plays like a fucking dream. And you know what, saying that, this game will always be on my top 10s alongside with Doom, Half-Life 2, Metal Gear Solid 2 and Toho's Perfect Cherry Blossom. Now, if you want to play the game itself can go up to 20 quid for 02, which is an alright price for a PlayStation game, for physical even. But if you have modern platforms or a PC, then I would recommend just buying the Street Fighter 35th Anniversary Collection, which has all the games based on the Capcom arcades and is ready for you to pick up and play without going out the need to go and buy a physical copy of a game that for a console that you probably don't have. Anywho, that will do for now. I've been Saku. Fuck off.